But Owen is divorced?
Not officially. His ex, Tatiana, she's making it complicated. I don't want to say anything bad about Tatiana, but she's a detestable person. She calls herself a lifestyle curator, a thought leader. What is that?
Not familiar with it.
Owen financed her company. Now she wants to cut him out, and she wants full custody of their child.
Huh.
Owen is a good dad. Tatiana really sucks. Oh.
Yeah, you got it. You got it right in the thing there. Oops.
I mean, Tatiana is hot. If you like that sort of thing. But she is so mean to Owen. People are weird. They like being treated like shit. Oh. Really caught myself.
Yeah, you did. Put some pressure on that.
I don't even feel it.
Wrap it up.
Anyway, that's Owen's story, and there's more stuff, but I don't want to betray his trust.
Please, I totally understand.
Drinking a lot. Hard drugs. I don't want to say which ones. It's like Percocet, Oxy, Molly. Drugs are no way to deal with your problems.
No. It sounds like you really care for Owen.
What? That is personal.
Just a habit. I ask a lot of questions. I used to be an investigative reporter.
I am not in love with Owen.
I never said you were.
You did?
No.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Thank you for listening to Ruined Childhoods. We are on the final episode of our hitting the 200 episode mark special. This is episode 202, where we are revisiting some of our past episodes and we're sharing our thoughts about the new films in those particular series or TV shows or whatever. On this episode, we're going to share some news updates regarding film franchises from past episodes. But before that, we're going to revisit our Fletch episode from May of 2021. But first, Dan, how the heck are you?
I'm doing all right, John. And how about yourself?
I'm doing okay. You are a high school teacher. Are you ready? Are you ready for what's coming in the next few weeks? I don't know when your school year starts.
So here in Seattle, where I teach high school language arts and theater, we start on September 6th. So
okay.
we're recording this on...
You got another week.
Yeah. We start a week from Wednesday, but I've been in my classroom. I've been getting some things ready, and I've got a few things on my plate there.
You've been hanging the border, the banner around the border of the classroom with the alphabet on it, and with then the U.S. presidents,
uppercase and lowercase.
Yes,
I took out the script one. Sad.
Do they not teach cursive in Seattle public schools?
No, I feel like every now and again you'll get like some rogue third grade teacher because then the kids will be like, oh, I had Mrs. Sorensen for third grade and she taught us cursive.
That sounds specific.
In my mind, it was the spinning wheel of common names in the area where I live.
Okay, so, gotcha.
Yeah. Well, and some that weren't common, which is why the wheel didn't stop on them because, I mean, I have control over that wheel.
So you're gearing up for the school year. That's exciting.
I'm gearing up, but this summer, John, I feel like I've been good about working, especially earlier in the summer. So for those who wonder what teachers do over their summer vacations. I mean, some of them I'm sure just totally.
And you
check
say
out.
Vacations in quotes.
Summer break.
Yeah.
Is really what I should say. I really kind of got started because at the end of the year, I'm always like, oh man, I should have done more of this and less of that. So in July, I kind of jumped right into it and just kind of got a lot of stuff together and was like, okay, these are decisions I'm making for the next school year.
Yeah.
So now I'm just kind of getting everything ironed out. And the way that I work is just like whatever my mind, my heart, my soul wants to focus on. If it's hanging the border around the classroom, then so be it. I'll go do that. But if I'm just like, if I get a really good idea for like an activity, like a first day of school or first week of school activity, I'll just kind of like stop where I am on that and I'll go. Sometimes I'll just take out my phone and open up like a Google Doc and start planning it. But
Yeah.
that's these days I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to try to fight it. And that's how I work. But I'm excited. We start our first day of like teacher trainings tomorrow. So
Whoa.
looking forward to seeing colleagues. I've already run into a few as I've been in the building a few times recently. Excited to be back. Excited for the new school year, and it's always, hey, I'm gonna do this one better than I did the last one.
Yeah.
So
That's the point.
now you in Portland, there, you started schools today, did you not?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the day that we're recording, the day this comes out, it will be yesterday. So the day we're recording, it is tomorrow. So for my daughter, it will be her first day of first grade.
First day of first grade.
Yep.
And how's she feeling about
She's
first
definitely
grade?
excited. She already knows her teacher and she loves her. So she says that she's nervous, but she has nothing to back it up.
You
She's
know what?
like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, no one's going to know what to do.
It's your first day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really
Trial
good
by
point.
combat.
No, exactly. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
No, she'll be great. She has a mind for first grade, I would say. And I've talked to her. I can back that up. And little nerves are good. It means that you care.
I'm excited that she's going to really get to learn how to read properly this year. That's
Ah.
exciting. Perhaps she will even pick up a Fletch book.
Perhaps.
We'll
What's
see.
funny, John? Sorry, I know you were segueing and it was perfect. But I was going to tell you, I was like, you let her know that actually one of the things that I'm telling my high school students is you are not expected to come in knowing everything already.
Yeah.
So, and also some of them will hopefully also get to learn to read better.
Yeah. Well, that's your job.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it, looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about Fletch.
Yeah. So what's so funny is I was listening back to our Fletch episode and I was noticing that, one of the things that I said, and I don't know if this is in a clip that I pulled, but I was like, I don't think I will watch Fletch again. The original Chevy Chase Fletch movie, and in that episode we also talked about Fletch Lives, which is not based on any pre-existing source material. It has gone rogue, but I think Chevy Chase of it all really gets in the way of being able to enjoy Fletch the way that maybe we once were able to, just knowing what he's like nowadays.
There's that aspect to it. And I think also when you consider Chevy Chase's performance alongside Jon Hamm's,
right,
which it's impossible not to do. But when you think about, okay, what's not there? Because the Chevy Chase as Fletch, even though like Fletch isn't one of my favorite movies, it's definitely, an iconic.
It's a showcase for Chevy Chase to be Chevy Chase.
Well, and exactly. And I was like, that's it. That's what, because I really liked Confess Fletch. And I was like, that's what makes Confess Fletch stronger. One of the things is that it doesn't have the like dream sequences of Chevy Chase singing, zippity doodah.
Yeah, Fletch Lives took some bold moves.
Yeah, Fletch Lives aged like the guy who chose poorly when they were picking the Holy Grail in Last Crusade.
There you go.
But even in Fletch, when he's imagining he's on the Lakers. Which I don't, I feel like is not an unnatural extension of the character, but it's a showcase for Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what Confess Fletch does not have.
Yeah. And what I did read is that Gregory McDonald, who created the character of Fletch, he wrote the Fletch novels. He really liked Chevy Chase as Fletch. And so I respect that. It's not often that an author of novels with this one particular kind of character sees a portrayal on screen and is just like, yes, that's great. Like, I feel like they have a vision in their mind, and it's very hard to have somebody else pick an actor that matches what's in their mind, or at least comes close to it.
Well, and thinking, and, I listened to, a few chapters of a Fletch audiobook, and I'll talk a little bit more about the one that I picked, and I know you read it.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, no, but I would say, but in regards to the casting of Chevy Chase, I would say definitely considering your casting pool in 1985.
Yeah.
Yes, Chevy Chase, probably was the best choice and really fits the character well.
Yeah. Why don't we listen to our thoughts, our initial thoughts about hearing about this new Fletch movie that was going to be coming out. And what I didn't include is the long history of attempts to bring back Fletch. If you listen to our episode from May of 2021, you'll hear all about that. Kevin Smith.
I'm going to circle back to that.
Okay.
I have a reason to circle back to that.
Okay. But I didn't include it in the clip that I'm about to play. But this is really just about, really, because this is you reading me an article and me hearing for the first time what these plans are. So let's give that a listen.
So now there's talks again with Miramax, which I didn't know that name was even still being used, but Miramax and Jon Hamm bringing Fletch back to, and this is as of last summer was when this was news, so that it still could be happening. And I think Jon Hamm is a good choice. He's certainly a name that came to mind when thinking of who could, and really, and I have to say, in terms of Fletch, well, he's not my top choice, but he's a name that came to mind. When you have like an iconic performance, it's really challenging to recreate something like that. And especially with Fletch, which is so Chevy Chase. And one could not argue that this role is like this and Clark Griswold, probably the two defining Chevy Chase roles. But I think that Chevy Chase has lost so much goodwill.
Yeah.
That you could replace him and no one would complain.
Yeah.
And I think Jon Hamm is a fine option, especially if you're kind of pushing more towards the mystery, less towards, although Jon Hamm can do comedy great. But he would play this as a character. However, he's not my top choice. And I say, why not? Like a Fletch reboot, like investigative journalism, mystery, comedy. It's got a lot of great elements. And, these things are not guaranteed crowd pleasers, but why not?
So there you go. I mean, there's your why not. So now, having seen Confess Fletch, what do you have to say about that to past Dan?
Oh, past Dan, 2021 Dan, you underestimated the powers of Jon Hamm and Greg Mottola.
Yeah.
Confess Fletch is so much fun. This was the second time that I've watched it. And all right, let's first get it out of the way. I feel like he cleanses the character, like he kind of he cleanses the Chevy Chase out of it. And, like I said, my background on the character from the books is limited, but it feels like he really gets the core of the character, like this guy who just, like, his personality is so that, like, in every situation, he'll say what he just follows his curiosity, and he'll say and do what he needs to say and do, even if it gets him in trouble. And, it seems all of these novels, it's not that he's necessarily looking for the mess he gets into. Yeah. And he, like, something happens and he just can't, let it go. And he's pursuing it. And
he's pulling on threads. And
exactly.
Unable to stop. Yeah. Just real quick, I want to give a little synopsis for Confess Fletch.
Yes.
Which came out in 2022. Sent to Boston to track down his Italian girlfriend's father's art collection, Erwin Fletcher is immediately the number one suspect in a murder investigation after he finds a dead body in his townhouse rental. Still on a mission to find the missing art, Fletch is also driven to solve the murder so he can clear his name. And it's a lot of fun. Roy Wood Jr. plays this detective who they have this wonderful back and forth. And that detective has a partner, Grizz. Who's a rookie, I guess, who's just delightful. You have small roles by people like Lucy Punch and Annie Mamolo, and they're so fantastic. And Kyle MacLachlan and Marcia Gay Harden, and it's lovely. It's really fantastic. And like you were saying, Jon Hamm gives it a different perspective without feeling like you're watching a different character. It's the same way like it would be with James Bond. You are fully aware that it's a different actor playing this same character, and they're going to do certain things differently, but you're not mad at it because it's okay.
And the staples are there. The character of James Bond is there. He evolves with the times, of course.
There is this moment in Confess Fletch, and I don't have the exact quote that encourages him to say this, but I believe this is when he's speaking with John Slattery, who's playing his former editor at the newspaper he used to work at. And what's also interesting is that this newspaper is in a time during COVID where people are starting to come back to work, and he's so uncomfortable in an office where people are working hybrid because it's like there's no life in the office. So it's a really funny moment in time that it captures that I haven't seen a lot in other movies.
Well, and I love that callback to kind of like the classic journalism, especially journalism in movies, you know, when you think about All the President's Men, and even, you know, some more recent things like Spotlight.
In which John Slattery, was also there. But the role, the line that I'm talking about is John Slattery's talking to him. I think it was either John Slattery or the Roy Wood Jr. character. I'm so sorry. I watched this a couple weeks ago and it's already muddy. But he's just like something, and then around the corner, and then Jon Hamm goes, "Where the fudge is made." And it's just so like quick and under his breath. And it's like, he can't help himself but say these things out loud that he's thinking that are just like funny and weird. And it's like,
it was so, you know, and I don't know if I caught that the first time I saw it, but I definitely caught it when I watched it recently.
I don't remember the first time I saw it, if that was a laugh out loud moment for me, but it was definitely a laugh out loud moment for me the second time. And unfortunately, Confess Fletch did come out during a time where people weren't really going to like theaters as much. Yeah. I know that I waited until it was out on VOD because I wasn't, I think, ready to go see it in a theater, or I like missed my chance because I'm sure that it just like was in a few theaters, didn't perform well because nothing was performing well, and came and went.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember if it even played in theaters. I don't remember.
It did play in theaters.
It did play in theaters?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was probably just like a week or two tops, probably. And I think that it's a real shame. I mean, clearly you and I both really enjoy Confess Fletch. I mean, I feel like in a way it does make me want to watch the original Fletch again. I mean, the original Fletch does have some like great lines, and similarly to the Where the Fudge is Made line, you know, in the original Fletch, when Chevy Chase is posing as a doctor and says his name is Dr. Rosenpenis, just because like the board says all the Rosen names for the doctors and stuff, and just like the muttering under the breath thing, Jon Hamm does it so well. And he's charming, and he's fun, and he's interesting, and I think that he really honors the character in a really cool way. And I'm always down to see what Jon Hamm is going to do. And also, who doesn't love to see Jon Hamm and John Slattery teaming up?
No,
like I feel like you should just always have them together.
It feels right. It does feel right.
It does feel right.
You know what, John? I can say a lot that I think that's a great way to sum up Confess Fletch is It just feels right. It's a really comfortable. I could see it becoming just like one of those comfort movies.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I need something that's just going to make
I could
me
put it
get
on any
like a
time.
Barb and Star.
Annie Momolo. There you go.
But
An Annie Momolo double feature.
yeah, going back to the idea of the kind of lack of fanfare, like that, you know, this type of reboot would have once gotten.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic kind of accelerated the process, but it feels like, you know, pop culture and zeitgeist doesn't have the same attention span as it once did.
Totally.
Like where in 1989 I think it was 1989 when they made like because finally the sequel to Gone with the Wind, the novel had been published, and then and then, you know, in 19 like when they remade it and it was like, oh, big deal. It was a TV movie starring Joanne Wally Kilmer. Those type of things where it's like, oh, there's going to be a new Robin Hood. No, Kevin Costner. I mean, you know, but you know, at that point we didn't know. I feel like there's that lack of excitement. There's also that lack of like real star power. Yeah. Whereas, you know, once upon a time, Jon Hamm would have been like a, you know, leading man, A-list star. And I just feel like movies are less about that these days, and it's more about the concepts and
also
the
I think that Jon Hamm, after the success of Mad Men, once he started acting in movies, made a lot of really deliberate choices, and whether he was
Bridesmaids.
Well, oh yeah, you know, showing up in Bridesmaids in a bit part. And
I feel like that
introducing
was
us to
one.
funny Jon Hamm,
right,
was really fantastic because we're so used to Mad Men Jon Hamm, who's so intense all the time, and then, you know, we see him in, you know, he's in like The Town, and what is it, like $1 Million Arm or something, like it's a different type of movie at least. But then you see him in a lot of comedies, especially on television, like 30 Rock and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and you see the funny Jon Hamm like being a very smart comedic actor,
right,
and not, you know, he's doing something that's very true to him. He's not trying to be somebody else, and it works. But it's not something that's so outrageous that it's going to catch a lot of people's attention in a way that gets people to flock to see whatever movie he's going to do. Right.
Well, I feel like in another time, another place, he could have been built into that type of star, like you know, he could have been someone considered to play Jack Ryan, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I know that they were, you know, people were saying like, oh, maybe for Superman, but it's like, he's too old for Superman.
Right.
And I'm glad that he was, because I don't know, I feel like it would have been a little sad to see him go super mainstream after, you know, the success. But also for quite a while, and they're not together anymore, but he was with Jennifer Westfeldt, and, you know, who's an independent director. And, you know, he did some films with her. Friends with Kids was one of them. And it was really great to see him not just going for the money grabs. He was making intelligent choices, and I'm sure that it was very fulfilling for him as an actor to be able to do this stuff. By the way, actors are on strike, and support them, and so on and so forth. We don't have to talk about that. We've talked about it before. But Dan, I want to play what we were thinking when we had our episode on Fletch back in 2021 about, you know, a future for Fletch. I'll start with you.
All right. So I wrote down 4 names for my possible Fletch replacements. First, an honorable mention to both Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon, who I thought if they ever gender swapped Fletch, especially Kate McKinnon. I think Kate McKinnon would be absolutely hilarious. She'd be so great. But in terms of casting, you know, recasting Fletch as a man, my top choice, who I think would actually be brilliant and would redefine the role, is Andy Samberg.
Oh yeah, he'd be great.
Andy Samberg as Fletch totally clicks for me. As And then the other names I had down, because I was like, oh, you know, what are some different directions you could go with? Not someone who's kind of doing, like Andy Samberg, I think could give us the Fletch that we expect without it being Chevy Chase.
Right.
I think Keegan-Michael Key
Okay.
could be a really, I would love to see him do that type of role where he's playing a journalist and, you know, he kind of gets to be funny, but he's really like focused on being an investigative journalist. I thought Adam Driver for some reason.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, Adam, I guess I was watching like Logan Lucky recently, and there's a couple of things where I feel like Adam Driver can do humor. He can do comedic roles. And I know, like, you know, we see him either playing like serious or like he's Kylo Ren, but I think he can do here. I'm also thinking of his role in Midnight Special, which even though it's not a comedic role, he kind of, it's a little bit, there's a little something different from Adam Driver in that. So I think Adam Driver would be good. I was thinking about it, Aziz Ansari as well, as someone who I was like, he's kind of got that, like, he'd almost bring that same, like, that kind of Chevy Chase energy of kind of always having a wisecrack to say and always being able to talk his way out of situations. So that was where I went. And I really didn't have any other ideas other than to go back to the novels. Like the Fletch Lives wasn't based on any of the novels, and there's all these novels. So this could really be a great, a solid franchise, and it could work, it could work like big screen. Why not? And and even though it would work fine as something that like Netflix or Prime or Hulu produces, I still think there's something about like these kind of long awaited like reboots and revivals just kind of dropping on streaming services that feels like kind of anticlimactic. So I think I would want to see Fletch in the theater, though Fletch could also work as a series, or you could do it. Well, the type of series I was thinking about was something like Sherlock, where each episode of Sherlock is, and this is the BBC Sherlock, where it's almost like a mini movie, each episode, and they don't really have that much connection to each other. You can kind of jump around with Sherlock. Right. So I think like if you were going to do a Fletch series, that's how it would work is it kind of being those like, whatever hour long, 70-minute long mini movies. But okay. That's cool. What I would do. And not having read the novels, had I read the novels, I would probably
kind of want to read the novels, though.
Yeah,
I would just hope that I could do it without thinking of Chevy Chase as being Fletch. Yeah.
It kind of depends on how the book is written, and I know that Gregory MacDonald thought highly, or at least approved of Chevy Chase's performance. But I have to imagine the character is not written to be Chevy Chase in the books. So, I'm definitely interested to check one out. Sounds like a good beach read for the summer.
It does. Yeah.
Oh, that ramble was a 70-minute mini movie.
Dad, what that all makes me think of is a very similar series to somebody like Fletch, who is not a detective. He is a journalist, but kind of becomes a detective. Kind of like, I don't know, J.B. Fletcher and Murder, She Wrote. Anybody who's been listening the past several episodes know that I've been working my way through the whole series, so I've got Murder, She Wrote on the brain. Yeah, the other Fletcher. And
for some reason, I thought you were going to say Hooperman, like the series that had John Ritter for like
No.
That, like, lasted a season. No,
No.
of course
No.
not.
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. That makes perfect.
And I'm very excited because the next episode that I'm up to, I believe, is a Murder, She Wrote Magnum PI crossover episode.
Oh, my, must have been sweeps. Look at the original air date.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I know that I'm into 1986. I got to say it's probably September. So
okay.
yeah,
All
something
right.
like that. I don't know. I'll
Season
report
opener?
back. I want to play my thoughts because mine kind of came directly after what you had said, and then we have a lot to say. All right. I actually did think of another sequel, the third in the Fletch trilogy. I have not read any of the books, so this is not from any particular source material. And I have not done any research to see if maybe this actually was. But I thought that a really good follow-up to Fletch Lives would be Fletch Dies. It would make sense that this would take place, 32 years later or whatever. So the plot that I had in mind is that Fletch is found dead, and an investigative journalist at the paper that Fletch worked at finds out that something is left to them in Fletch's will. And it's a video that Fletch made explaining that something from his past and some people from his past, he thinks that they're out to get him, and he's concerned that something is going on, and he's worried for his life. He's not as young as he was, so he isn't maybe as able to wriggle out of situations as easily, climb out of fire escapes, if it were. And this young journalist has to figure out what's going on, but in order to solve a mystery of Fletch's death, you have to think like Fletch to do it. So that's my idea. Are you looking up the titles of the books to see if there was a Fletch Dies?
Oh,
'Cause I surely didn't do that.
I just kind of Googled Fletch Dies and didn't come up with anything.
That's surprising because it seems like such a logical next step for the Fletch series. And I hadn't really thought too much about casting decisions. I think that somebody like Kate McKinnon would also be good as a younger Fletch type, somebody who could definitely pull that off. There's a lot of really great young actors out there who I think would be good. I think that Beanie Feldstein would also be pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Somebody who's like really low at
Kind
the
of
newspaper.
like Robin in the paper, like the intern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's just like, why am I being left to figure this out? And, it's like, of course, there's some sort of reason, some sort of link that makes it make sense.
She would not be his daughter.
Nope.
No.
No.
We know what you're thinking.
No. Of course, you start to think like, oh, what about, the son of Fletch? And it's just like, nope. No. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Because otherwise, it's like, what? Otherwise, just make a remake.
No. And I think like, hey, you could get Chevy Chase in for an afternoon to film one segment that ends up being like just talking into a camera kind of thing.
He wouldn't have to leave the house.
He wouldn't. No.
Because also if it's taking place present day, he would probably just record it on a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I got.
I like that
I thought
idea.
that'd be fun.
I think it's a nice way to revive the property and like reboot the franchise, because then of course you set yourself up with, for sequels with this kind of new Fletch. Maybe part of the inheritance is the nickname of Fletch.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But I don't know. That's what I got.
So I kind of see a little crossover between like the new Fletch and Grizz.
Oh yeah, Grizz.
There's that little bit there.
Yeah, she's kind of like a spazzy weirdo.
But like really good at her job.
Yeah, so that all said, I wanted to talk about the books because at that time we had not touched any of the books.
No.
You said that you listened to a little bit of an audiobook of one of them. Which one is that?
So, John, I was curious because, of course, we know in the history of the attempts to reboot Fletch, Kevin Smith famously was going to direct Jason Lee as Fletch in Fletch 1, which as in
W-O-N.
W-O-N, right? And which I always thought was kind of an odd casting choice. Like, I like Jason Lee.
Oh, I get that casting choice completely.
Well, once you listen to the audiobook of Fletch 1, you will see it clear as day.
I read the first few chapters of Fletch 1.
That's about what I listened to.
Okay. What about the audiobook made it seem
It
like
might
him?
have been it might have been the way that the guy was reading it. And also, like, I was kind of intentionally listening to it to kind of see, like, all right, do I see Jason Lee?
Yeah.
Like mid to late 90s Jason Lee.
So in the book Fletch 1, what happens is at this point, Fletch is working for a paper, kind of just writing headlines, and he's given the opportunity to write a piece on a couple who's giving $5 million to an art museum. And he's supposed to interview the couple at like 10 o'clock, but it turns out that the guy is found dead in the parking lot of the newspaper. And Fletch just kind of, noses his way into talking with the cops, and then he still goes to the people's house and talks to the person who he thinks is the wife, but turns out it's not. And he is encouraged to completely disrobe and swim in their pool because he had been held up at a liquor store and it smelled like booze. So he's swimming nude in their pool, and this woman runs away with his clothes or whatever. And so he has to wear the dead guy's clothes. And it was very strange. I didn't keep going for very long. I probably would have if we were recording this at a later date, but
right. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if reading it, and you're right, it could be in the way that it was read, whoever was the person.
It wasn't Jason Lee, for the record.
Yeah. Perhaps it made more sense with the way that person read it. Because I read the book Fletch's Fortune, which is the book that follows Confess Fletch, I believe.
Which is the second in the series. And Greg Mottola is trying to make that movie. Oh, good.
Yeah, so he's like, I don't know if they're going to let me do it, but I'm going to prepare as if I'm going to be able to. And
I'm all for that.
yeah. And Fletch's Fortune, and let me see if I can sum it up easily, but there's going to be a convention of American journalists, and Fletch, who is at this point unemployed, he's working on he's living in Italy and he's working on a biography about somebody, and he is informed by the CIA. They are aware that he has never paid taxes and is willing to erase that information from the records if he will go to this journalism conference with this recording equipment and like bug all of the rooms so that the CIA can find out what's going on, behind closed doors with all these journalists. So it's just him at this journalism conference. And of course, the president of the Alliance of Journalists or whatever is found dead before he gets there. And it's kind of like solving the whole thing and who did it because everybody's still there. And so it's interesting. Because it all takes place really in one big location,
right?
Which is a plantation, which I feel is. I do know that Gregory McDonald, that's his name, right? The author.
Yeah.
In Fletch Lives, there's like, of course, a big plantation situation. And there's a plantation in this one. And it's just like, what is the deal with plantations? I know that he had nothing to do with Fletch Lives, but that probably comes from the fact that there are plantations in other books. Yeah. And I guess Gregory McDonald lived on a plantation and also was a very outspoken advocate for anti-Klan activity. So I feel better about all the plantation business knowing that he was very much against a lot of the things that plantations can be known for. So I'd say Fletch's Fortune, knowing that Greg Mottola is working on it, I have full faith in him. I hope that it happens because it also
I
would bring us
trust him with
another-
a plantation.
I trust him with Jon Hamm as Fletch. And I don't know. I feel like reading Fletch's Fortune and the first few chapters of Fletch 1, I could see both Chevy Chase and Jon Hamm in those characters in different elements. There are certain things that Fletch says where I'm like, I could see Chevy Chase saying this, but I can't see Jon Hamm saying this. And there were certain times where it's just like, oh, that is a characteristic that I can definitely see of Jon Hamm, but not of Chevy Chase.
Right.
Because the character of Erwin Maurice Fletcher is like somebody who women are just drawn to, and he has a very easy way of speaking with them. And I feel like that comes across better from Jon Hamm than it does from Chevy Chase, who I feel comes across sleazier.
Smarmy. Yeah, there's more sincerity coming from Jon Hamm, where it's
Exactly.
just like this is a guy who speaks his mind and who
the Lothario nature that he has is kind of, just baked in and kind of underneath the surface. Whereas for Chevy Chase, I feel like it'd be more on the surface.
it's more of like a game he's trying, whereas like with Jon Hamm, it's just like, well, oh, how did I end up here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was interesting, and it did make me understand Chevy Chase's portrayal of Fletch in the original too. So yeah, it was interesting. And we said in one of them, like, what a good beach read. And you know what? It was a perfect summertime read. Like it goes fast, and you can do it in a day if you really wanted to, and it's a total beach read.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you know what? You can read it wherever you want. Support your local library.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or independent booksellers. Hey,
There you go. Yeah, I imagine you could probably get the entire Fletch series somewhere pretty cheap.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dan, before we move on, do you have any other thoughts about Fletch and Confess Fletch? I mean, we clearly like it a lot. It's currently streaming on Paramount Plus.
No, I've said my piece. I really, was pleased with it, and look forward to going back a third time.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of sitting there waiting for us whenever we need it. Good background movie, good foreground movie, good movie.
Exactly, just a good movie.
So Dan,
all right,
now we're gonna go back and we're gonna do kind of lightning round style, talking about some of our other episodes where maybe there hasn't been a new movie or a sequel or a prequel or reboot or remake or whatever, but there's been news about something having to do with bringing a new life to it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to devote 3 minutes to each one. And when those 3 minutes are up, we just move on to the next one. And here's how we're going to know. I have prepared a 3-minute sound clip that is going to go just kind of underneath what we're talking about. It is the score from Bloodsport.
nice.
And at the very end, first of all, when you hear the Kumite chant, that means we have 1 minute left.
Nice.
And then at the very end, when its time is up, I just put a cuckoo clock sound effect in there.
Oh, okay. That, of course. Why not? Is that not in the movie already? Or
No, but I was just like, I don't know. I need something as kind of like a, final sound. And why not a fun little cuckoo clock?
yeah, it's time.
All right. Shall I begin?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So The Last Starfighter, there's been no news about any new sequels or anything. That's kind of gone stagnant. I've read some articles saying that there's going to be the one with the writer from Rogue One,
Starfighters.
But then others saying that that's gone flat. But so who knows? But there is a new 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray out, distributed by Arrow Video, and Arrow had released another Blu-ray a few years ago, and it has a lot of the same special features on it. But it is, of course, 4K Ultra HD. I know that the Blu-ray that I have is, it might be 1080p, and honestly, it like skips and is weird. I think it's like made on a pretty cheap disc. So I think I'm gonna be getting it. It includes commentary with Lance Guest and his son.
Okay. All right. His son.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really want to get this version of it so that I can hear kind of what like the star of The Last Starfighter thought, the star of The Last Starfighter's son thinks about like his dad's legacy. That's kind of cool.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That might be worth checking out.
Yeah. There's also an article that came out, and I want to see exactly when this was, but the actor Zachary Levi. Dan, are you a Zachary Levi fan?
Of Shazam fame.
Of Shazam fame, exactly.
I know, and other things. Do I am I a fan? I thought Shazam was fine. I thought it was fun. I have no objections to Zachary Levi.
Yeah, well, as a person, he's said some pretty, not cool things, some homophobic things, and
what really?
But there was an article that came out in January of this year, where he said, "I don't want to do a remake. Shazam actor Zachary Levi doesn't want to ruin the magic of The Last Starfighter with a lackluster remake." So I guess there was some point where somebody was fan casting him in The Last Starfighter, which first of all, he's way too old. He's like, he's like 50 or maybe like mid 40s.
No.
And yeah, exactly. And he didn't want to ruin the magic. So, I mean, I don't want him to ruin the magic of The Last Starfighter, but I feel like, in the right hands, the magic could not be ruined.
Yeah. No news, no progress. Just the Gary Whitta, kind of like test footage and like demo stuff, which was pretty fun to see. It was pretty cool to watch. But no real movement on that.
Yeah. So that was our first. Hey, 3 minutes. There it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we stretched it out a little bit at the end there, but that was good.
I felt comfortable.
All worth it. Okay.
All right. Do you want me to hit the next one, or do you have something prepared?
So yeah, I do have something prepared.
Go for it.
So, Vertigo, the PlayStation 4 game. I got a copy of Vertigo and played it. And
what's it like?
What's it like? All right. So first,
is like Jimmy Stewart in it?
No.
Okay.
First of all, it is modern day. It is set modern day
In San Francisco still?
In the Bay Area. Yes.
Okay.
It is in the Bay Area. Your main character is a writer who is in like a car accident and says that his daughter and her mother were killed in it, but like he's not married, doesn't have, I don't know. So there's this stuff about like what's real and what isn't, and there's like this mysterious hiker with a hurt ankle who shows up at his house, which is kind of like out in the middle of the woods, and she's of course like cute little petite early 20s.
Yeah.
Who shows up while he's trying to write, and it's not like a game. You sit there and you're watching.
Is there like a Kim Novak type? Kim Novak was in Vertigo, right?
Yeah. No, there's like nothing. I mean, it's kind of like if they were to say, okay, if Hitchcock were a filmmaker today and was just kind of mediocre.
Okay.
What would he make? So that's what this is. It's got like a, the protagonist, I would say, is more like John Krasinski would be.
Okay.
Kind of a stubbly John Krasinski.
Who I suppose is kind of like, I don't know, something close to a modern day Jimmy Stewart.
He fits that where like he's initially very likable, but then there's a darkness to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's charming, but also it's like you never know.
I could see John Krasinski being the Jimmy Stewart proxy. So I can't hear if the cuckoo clock went off. But.
Oh no, not yet. Oh, Is it not loud enough for you? So,
okay.
also, of other Hitchcock films, what else do you think might work as a video game? I know my answer.
I mean, probably North by Northwest.
That's my answer. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's set up the most like a video game with all these like levels and like henchmen and big bosses.
Yeah, and there's excitement to it. There's chases. There's a lot more locations. Compared to like Rear Window, especially.
I mean, with this, like you don't
birds.
even really do anything. It's like, okay, you press this button.
Okay. All right. Well, I got a fun one for us.
All right.
All right, so Mattel's CEO expects Masters of the Universe to be as big as the MCU. So this is going off of our Masters of the Universe, discussion. So this was in Slash Film. It said, despite numerous starts and stops over the years, Mattel may well use the success of Barbie to help further revive the 80s-born Masters of the Universe toy line, something that's been riding on nostalgia alone for far too long. After becoming CEO, Inan Kriez, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, saw the potential in Masters of the Universe that a lot of executives have failed to recognize. He says it's as big as Marvel and DC. He said that to the New Yorker. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're not going to hear us complaining about a potential Masters of the Universe continuation saga series.
You know what I was thinking about? Because after seeing the Barbie movie, and of course hearing all of the, conservative right-wing backlash that you'd expect about, like, they're trying to turn us all gay.
They're indoctrinating us, yeah.
All I thought of was like, oh shit, wait for the Masters of the Universe movie.
Wait till they see this guy.
Just a bunch of greased up, muscly men in, like, loincloths, like 300.
Yeah. So one thing that I did want to bring up, just the other day, I saw our friend of the podcast, Box Brown, from our Heavyweights episode. He was in town in Portland, signing some stuff at a comic book show. And of course, I went out to see him because he has a new book. He does graphic nonfiction for anybody who's unfamiliar with Box Brown. And he has a new book called The He-Man Effect, How American Toy Makers Sold You Your Childhood. And I'm just going to read the description that I saw on Powell's.com. In his new graphic novel, Box Brown unravels how marketing that targeted children in the 1980s has shaped adults in the present. Powered by the advent of television and supercharged by the deregulation era of the 1980s, media companies and toy manufacturers joined forces to dominate the psyches of American children. But what are the consequences when a developing brain is saturated with the same kind of marketing bombardment found in the Red Scare propaganda? This book shows how corporate manipulation brought muscular, accessory-stuffed action figures to dizzying heights in the 80s and beyond, bringing beloved brands like He-Man, Transformers, My Little Pony, and even Mickey Mouse himself into the spotlight. This graphic history exposes a world with no rules. Okay, blah, 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 blah. I just got the book. I'm really excited to read it. And it's so perfect to go into the conversation with Barbie being such a huge success.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm really excited, and I'm thrilled that the timing for Box worked out that way.
So considering how big they hit with Greta Gerwig as a director for Barbie, who would they go with for Masters of the Universe? I vote John Cameron Mitchell.
Or just Greta Gerwig. Why not?
Well, no arguments there.
I'd prefer that to the Chronicles of Narnia series that she's doing.
Yeah, but
I trust her. I trust her.
At this point, if for me, in terms of her directorial efforts, especially, she's a solid 3 for 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna try to squeeze 2 into this next segment.
Okay.
Because I feel like these ones are 2 briefies. Okay.
Got it.
All right, so there's the Roadhouse updates, and I had it listed as sequel, but it's really a remake. Doug Liman is directing this one. He, for anybody who isn't unfamiliar, did Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Edge of Tomorrow.
The Bourne Identity.
Bourne Identity, of course. And the description is, in the Roadhouse remake, Jake Gyllenhaal will play the role of James Dalton, a former UFC fighter who takes a job as a bouncer at a rowdy bar in the Florida Keys. Dalton soon discovers that only some things are what is seems in his tropical paradise. And I believe that Conor McGregor is also in it. Isn't he I think he's an MMA guy.
He is. Oh yeah, no, very well known UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Or
So
fighter, yeah.
I don't know. I know it's going to be very different from the original. It's not going to ruin the original for anybody. We'll see if he tries to rip at anybody's throats. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there are elements of the original that it's like, don't even try. Don't even try to do that. Like, be your own Roadhouse.
I mean, Ben Gazzara, first of all,
Oh,
you can't beat him as the villain, the wealthy villain, and also a scene where a monster truck takes out a car dealership.
I mean, I think, what maybe gets overlooked in a lot of these remakes is what makes the originals great. And Roadhouse was not like a lauded film upon release. It gained a cult following because of things like the throat ripping and the lines about be nice until it's time to not be nice.
Also, it's peak Swayze time.
Right, it's crazy for Swayze. The action is great, but Ben Gazzara, but shit like monster trucks.
Yeah,
and
it was perfect for the era. Also, Sam Elliott. Yeah.
Oh, and
really
while we're talking about Roadhouse, I'd be remiss in not saying pour one out for the late great, the legendary Terry Funk, who professional wrestler who was in Roadhouse. Was one of the bouncers at the Double Deuce when Dalton first comes on.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, but Terry Funk passed away.
Rest in power.
Recently. Yeah.
I'm going to squeeze this one in really quickly. This is a separate one, but there's the Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, the next iteration in Beverly Hills Cop. It's just going to be released on Netflix maybe later this year. We'll see what happens with strikes and everything if it's finished.
I mean, it's been filmed.
But reshoots and anything like that, I mean, who's to say if it can come out later this year?
I suppose. It sounds like the plot has to do with Axel Foley investigating corruption.
Ahmed Foley?
Ahmed. Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot. I tell you it's true. I love Bronson Pinchot is back in it as well.
He's back, baby.
Yes. All right.
I'm going to try to do another cram a few into one. All right. You ready?
All right. Yeah.
Dan, have you seen the trailer for The Exorcist Believer?
I have indeed.
What'd you think?
First of all, I saw it in the movie theater sitting next to my 9-year-old daughter.
What did they show it in front of?
Wait, hold on a second. No, never mind. Sorry. I thought they showed it in front of Barbie. I mean, look.
No.
No, they showed it in front of Oppenheimer. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah. But to me, it looks like kind of your run-of-the-mill, there's these new, there's this exorcism
movie.
Like the Pope's Exorcist. I was watching a little bit of that on Netflix because it looked goofy.
Yeah.
And I was, I think that love anyone who heard our Exorcist episode knows how much I love the original film, and another pour one out for William Friedkin, who just passed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, this new Exorcist Believer, I am you're bringing back Ellen Burstyn to try to make us think it's going to be like the original. It does not. I'm not sold.
Yeah, I think that I was, feeling encouraged by that fact, but after I saw the trailer, I was like, oh no, it's just
standard. What's the gimmick this time? Is there's two of them, and we're gonna I thought that in terms of connecting it to the original film, the series, the Fox series, did a much better job.
Well, yeah, it was kind of cool when Ellen Burstyn was just like, we've met before, and it's like, hello, mother, or whatever.
Right, yeah.
That was kind of fun. I don't know, as fun as that kind of thing could be.
I mean, it's gimmicky.
Yeah. So I wanted to also give an update on the I don't know, long rumored twins sequel, Triplets, which everybody kind of thought maybe it could happen. They've always been talking about different people who could possibly be in it, but I guess since Ivan Reitman is no longer with us, it is no longer, I guess, Jason Reitman stopped the project, according to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I said Jason Reitman literally stopped the project when his father died. His father wanted to do it really badly. I wanted to do it really badly. Danny DeVito wanted to do it really badly. We had the financing. When his father passed away, Jason says, I never liked the idea and put a hold on it. So Triplets is not likely to ever happen.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. I feel like it would have just been kind of an attention grab, and Tracy Morgan was going to be the third, and it's
not Eddie Murphy.
I guess not,
because that was
the latest. I guess was Tracy Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So it's like insert black comedian here.
Yeah, I think so.
No. So I guess maybe that's a good segue kind of into Grease.
Go for it.
So now Paramount Plus pulled Grease: Rise of the Pink Ladies. By the time
they scrubbed it from the platform,
they said it was in preparation for merging with Showtime. It was kind of like, I guess clearing, making sure you have room for your, I don't know, all of your Dexters and Billions. And, John, I know you didn't get to watch any of it. Do you remember, did you watch the trailer for it?
Nope.
All right.
I found out about it after it had already gone away.
So I had watched the trailer for it, and my impression, and please, if you watched it, if you can, expand upon this, please email us at ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. But it felt to me like it was a ways, oh wow, gee, generations love Grease, but Grease is kind of A, misogynistic, and B, white. Yeah. And not necessarily in that order. So let's make a version of Grease that isn't. So they went backwards in time, like 5 years. It takes place like 5 years before Grease, which Grease is, I guess, the class of 1959. So this takes place in like 1954, 1955. Granted, we know Rydell High is in California, so like segregation, like legal segregation wouldn't have been an issue. But it feels like it's like Rise of the Pink Ladies, and it's how the Pink Ladies are basically founded by like all the quote unquote bad girls in the school, and it's like a token collection. Because it's like, and we're gonna diversify it. So here's gonna be our Latina, and here's gonna be our Black Pink Lady, and our Asian Pink Lady.
Gotcha.
And
interesting.
So to me, it seemed like there was some good intention in there, but just like a misfire that also kind of, in a weird way, while it's attempting to add diversity, whitewashes the truth of high school in the 1950s.
Yeah. I'm going to try to squeak one in the last 30 seconds here, but it's relevant. So I guess they're trying to bring Soap Dish to Paramount Plus as a series. And reading this article in Slash Film, after a failed remake attempt in 2011, the project is now part of the NAACP's production partnership with CBS Studios. So they say, I consider it a real coup to be working with Jenny Snyder-Erman. She's a powerhouse in every sense, blah, blah, blah. So, they're trying to get a television reboot in at Paramount Plus. So we'll see what happens with that.
Your timing there was so good. I was gonna jump in with something, but I was like, the timing was perfect. I mean, I will say, like, a good deal of the original cast is still alive and working. So
we'll see what happens.
It does make me sad that we would not have Carrie Fisher back.
Oh, of course. But
that like performance will just remain forever, and I love it. I love that movie. So remains to be seen.
Well, speaking of movies that we love that have proven to work on television, Fargo season 5 debuts on November 21st of this year.
Back to Jon Hamm.
Back to Jon Hamm. We have Jon Hamm, Joe Keery, Juno Temple, Jennifer Jason Leigh. It's, I mean, great cast. I was reading an article about it, and it was really making it seem like the last season, which is the one with Chris Rock and Andrew Bird and Jesse Buckley, that takes place in the, I believe, 50s in Kansas City.
Jason Schwartzman too. Yeah, like
Jason Schwartzman also.
Like 1950.
Yeah, and they were saying like, oh, it totally didn't work and blah, blah. And I was like, I loved that season. I don't know.
It was different, and it was a little, like getting into it, I felt was a little tough, but like there was, I
was dazzled by it. I loved it.
Oh,
I thought it was great.
I thought once I kind of got into it and figured out what was going on, I really loved it. There are some moments in it that just kind of will stick with me. So yeah, Fargo, totally strong season.
So this new season that comes out in November focuses on Sheriff Roy Tillman, who I'm assuming is played by Jon Hamm, has been on. Set in 2019, Fargo season 5 follows the tumultuous journey of Dorothy Dot Lyon, a seemingly typical Midwestern housewife with a hidden past, now pursued by law enforcement. I wonder if that's going to be Juno Temple. That feels right. Oh, I actually have a list here. Yeah, that's Juno Temple. Jon Hamm is Sheriff Roy Tillman. Joe Keery is Gator Tillman, which I believe is his son. Jennifer Jason Leigh is Lorraine Lyon. So related to Juno Temple's character. Lamorne Morris is in it, who's fantastic. He really broke out in The New Girl, but I absolutely love him in the movie Game Night. You'll hear me rave about Game Night anytime I have an opportunity. And Dave Foley is in it as somebody named Danish Graves, which is such a great character name.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and this one I think is back in like North Dakota. So it's, I don't know, and more close to present day. So it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm so excited.
I'm excited to see how it connects. When I always enjoyed seeing how the different seasons connect to each other.
Yeah, and perhaps there's a way in which this will make the last season fit contextually, because
the last season didn't really.
It did. It showed a character from one of the other seasons from back in the 50s as a child. But I believe that that's also like theory and maybe not proven. I can't remember the exact details. Cuckoo.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Hey, I'm cuckoo for that cuckoo clock noise. All right. We got some more. Let's see what we can cram into this one. We got Beetlejuice 2 updates.
Oh, yes, Beetlejuice 2.
So that one's set to release on September 6th of 2024. We will see what happens because of the strikes and everything.
Yeah.
I've seen some, I think there was like one like set photo or like promotional thing of Winona Ryder. But in addition to that, there's a very interesting news article that I read in artnews.com. Third theft reported from set of Beetlejuice 2 in Vermont. And Dan, I'm going to show you the picture and you're going to be like, whoa, really? Yep, your jaw just dropped.
Okay.
So it's one of the Delia Dietz sculptures, the one that kind of wraps around and grabs people. So the article says, to summon Beetlejuice, you need to say his name 3 times. That's also how many times thieves have struck the set of the... What a great way to get into an article. A highly anticipated sequel, according to Vermont State Police. So it's shooting in Vermont. So there was a theft. But it's exciting that the movie is happening. Willem Dafoe is cast in the movie as an afterlife law enforcement officer, which feels so right to me.
I feel like it's gonna be his character from American Beauty, but just like, or not American Beauty, American Psycho.
Oh yeah, right. The cast also includes Jenna Ortega, which I believe people probably already know about, Justin Theroux, and Monica Bellucci. So I am excited about it. I mean, it's Jenna Ortega teaming up with Tim Burton again. And, it's one of those movies where, yeah, it might be really bad and it might be really weird, but at least it'll be fun, and it's not going to do anything to change the original.
Yeah. It's a little...
I am curious to see how they're going to address not having, the Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis characters around, because unless there's like de-aging or just all CGI, then it wouldn't really make sense.
Right, yeah.
Because they're ghosts from when they died and everything.
I mean, I really hope that if they're moving forward with this, that they've thought things out and are. I don't know. This is one I'm like, you kind of have to hit the bullseye on this.
I know. I mean, you'd have to explain away Jeffrey Jones not being around for it. At least I imagine he's not going to be around for it.
No, but Catherine O'Hara, maybe.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, if her sculptures are around for it.
I mean, I guess the hard thing about saying that characters died is in a movie like that, it's really no reason for them to not be in the movie.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I still have a few more, Dan.
Oh, wow. Okay. I feel so unprepared.
Let me see if I can cram the rest of these into one more round. Okay, I think that I can do this. All right. So I have some Running Man news. So this is actually kind of older news, but I don't think that we brought this up. I think that we recorded our episode before this came out, but Edgar Wright is directing The Running Man for Paramount. And that for that one, it's not going to be a remake, but it's going to be more faithful to the novel. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I mean, Edgar Wright, we love. We've talked about that plenty of times, and so we'll see what happens. It says it's a top priority pick for Paramount, and a novel which King published as paperback back in 1982, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I feel like also with the strikes, everything could really get thrown away, and we'll see what happens, but I don't know.
It goes into the genre of re-adaptations of novels adapted with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Or just like with the actual like regular looking protagonist, like Total Recall and was there another one that they did that I'm not?
I don't know. Total Recall is the one that I was thinking of. I don't know.
No. Yeah.
But anyway, earlier you mentioned, just to move on, you mentioned Eddie Murphy. There is a Trading Places stage musical set to star Freestyle Love Supreme's Anissa Folds in the Eddie Murphy role. So we'll see what happens with that. And this is from an article that came out 2 months after our episode dropped. But there's I think we probably talked about the Taika Waititi animated Flash Gordon film that was going to be happening, but now it is reportedly going to be live action. Okay. So we will see what happens with that. I know that Taika Waititi has like a whole list of upcoming projects, so we'll see what happens and what doesn't happen, but right. I don't know. Also, there's of course Sister Act 3. That's, I don't think that there's too much to say about that. I think that it's still, we will see what happens, but that is on the horizon. And then the last thing I want to mention is that there is a new Blu-ray for Nothing But Trouble.
Yes.
So
is that Arrow?
It's Shout Factory. Yeah, and the bonus features have a 2K scan from the Interpositive, new interview with Dan Aykroyd. I mean, how can you miss this? A new interview with Chevy Chase, new interviews with a bunch of other people who were involved, production designers, other actresses in it, costume designers, new interview with the music producer, audio commentary with pop culture historian Russell Dyball. That's a lot of special features for a Nothing But Trouble Blu-ray, and it sounds great, and I want it.
I would be a lot if there was some type of director's cut. If there was like,
I think we saw the director's cut,
like a Rocky versus Drago, no, like totally like recut. I'd be interested in that. Yeah.
Well, that pretty much sums it up for all of our news bits. And I think that's just fine since we've already gone over an hour. Dan, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up our revisitation of our last 200 episodes?
No, there's really nothing that comes to mind. Of course, like, you know, there and like you said, these strikes are certainly going to decide the fates of many projects. And, you know, like we could see a lot of things that maybe we're kind of like stalling out, just kind of like fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
The direct RoboCop sequel, perhaps. And also just there's a continuation. Like I know we have the musical, the Trading Places musical, which I think about that and I'm like, that's fertile ground for musical adaptation there.
Sure. Yeah.
You've got the Mrs. Doubtfire musical, the Back to the Future musical. So, and you know, Broadway is not on strike. So
that is true. That is true. It is perfect time to
or live theater. It doesn't just have to be Broadway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Dan, let's talk about what we're going to be covering on our next episode of the podcast. Yes, we are going to cover a movie for each state. We're going to cover them all in alphabetical order. And
we're taking a road
we are
trip.
Going to, you know,
we're
traveling. The name of the state is in the title of the movie, or
plus
the
Washington,
state itself
DC,
plays an important
Puerto
role.
Rico.
The location plays a specific role.
It's got to be a movie that really couldn't take place anywhere else. It really needs to represent, you know, I think that, you know, that area, that geographical area.
With a big priority, if there's a movie that has the name of the state in the title and we're able to stream it on one of the services that we have, then you better bet that that's going to be the priority. So first is going to be Alabama. Dan, what are we going to cover for Alabama?
Sweet Home Alabama.
Dan.
Starring Reese Witherspoon.
Well, I am so excited to begin this journey with you. And we have, this is a full year's worth of episodes. So come along on this journey with us, everybody. If you have any thoughts, or if you have a very specific Nevada movie that you need for us to cover, or some, you know, maybe there's something in Washington State that we haven't thought of, email us ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Check out our link tree on the episode's description. There's a really great merch store with t-shirts and mugs and all that kind of fun stuff. Plus there's the book that I put out that's a journal where you can log movies that you've seen, fun coffee table centerpiece, and all that stuff really goes a long way to help us out and keep the show going. So yeah, Dan, I'm excited to go to Alabama with you.
I have never been more excited to go to Alabama.
Well, Dan, as we travel, I guess from Italy to from Boston to Italy, or wherever else Fletch is going, I wish you a good journey.
Boston to Italy to back again. Good journey.